Welcome to the Orion Basics webinar clinic today. My name is Eric Anderson. I'm going to be leading the discussion today. I am both the owner of Orion and the inventor of Orion, so hopefully as questions come up, I can answer them for you. We do have I do know that there's still a couple of people who are trying to log on. So for the first couple of minutes, which would be handling some of the logistical issues and some of the upcoming information about Orion before we get into the guts of the presentation, which is using Orion. Logistically wise, today's presentation, I am going to try to keep it to 45 minutes. I know we all have busy schedules, so I'm going to try to keep to that schedule. The information presented today is intended for new users. It does just cover the basics of using Orion. With that said, I do encourage everybody to ask questions as we go through the presentation. This information really is for you, so please ask questions as they come up. However, if your question is something that's very specific or something that's well beyond just the basics of using Orion, I may either hold your question until the end or ask that you call our support line after the fact so we can get your question answered. But again, as we do go through, I do encourage you to ask questions. Like I said, this presentation really is for your benefit. For today's purpose, most everything that we're going to be talking about is applicable to all the different disciplines that we support with Orion. But for demonstrational purposes, we will be using a 3-position air rifle, a 3x20 specifically, as kind of an example match. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. Most everything we will be covering is applicable to all the different disciplines. We will be recording today's webinar. We've recorded the last two, and we'll be recording today's webinar as well, and we will make it available on our YouTube channel after today's presentation is over. Again, if you have a question, please ask it. There is a chat box with the GoToMeeting application that you see in front of you. If you could just type your question into there, that would be best. We do have a lot of people online here, so please keep your phones on mute. After today's presentation, if you do have questions, there's lots of different ways that you can find the answer. Our website, orionscoringsystem.com, there is a support link with lots of FAQs that are already answered there. Feel free to call us. We're here to assist you. Call us, email us. If you're familiar with the Target Talk forum, you're welcome to ask questions on there. We do not own the Target Talk forum, but we do monitor it. And also on Facebook, you can find information on there as well. A lot of time with our Facebook account, we do provide information on Facebook before we do anywhere else, so it's a good way just to keep up with what's going on with Orion. Some announcemements before we get started. First of all, we just released the 2.3 release of Orion. This is actually going to be the Team League release where we're providing tools to manage leagues within Orion. We've also added tournaments. Tournaments are an online grouping of competitions. We made some improvements to the scoring algorithm. The two biggest ones that you'll notice is there's no more calibration. You don't have calibration is a thing of the past now. And B, if you are a BB gun club, we've made pretty significant improvements to the BB gun detection and accuracy algorithm. And as a reminder, if you are an Orion license holder, and I believe everybody who is on this presentation is, if you are an Orion license holder, you are entitled to all the software updates. That's part of the license. So as updates become available, by all means, download them. A couple other announcements. We've recently changed where we print targets. We moved from Germany to the United States. This allowed us to do a couple things. One, we've lowered prices. Two, you'll notice that the targets, the 10-meter and 50-foot targets, they're no longer the A4 size. We now moved them to a letter size, 8.5 by 11. You'll notice that a lot of the targets have dashed scoring rings, and the reason for this is actually very simple. We can get better scoring accuracy with the dash scoring rings, and making available 2 additional targets, a 12-bowl BB gun target and a basic marksmanship course target. The BMC target's widely used within the JRTC community for teaching basically first year athletes. Other thing to note is we're actually moving away from using barcode labels. While barcode labels are still a best practice for large competitions, we're moving away from them, so your small competitions and certainly your practices, they will soon really no longer be necessary for those smaller type of competitions. A couple other announcements. One, the Canon 3010 scanner, which still the most widely used scanner with Orion, has been discontinued. We've replaced it with the Canon. It's called the Canon DR M162 scanner. Twice as fast and a little bit more expensive, but twice as fast and just as good of a scanner. Also to note, if you're a BB gun club, the DR C125, C225 scanners, which used to not support BB gun, because of the algorithm improvements we made, we can now score BB gun with the scanner. And finally, just as a reminder, we do host a series, we call them the monthly series of virtual matches. Once a month, it's 5 different competitions covering 4 disciplines. Any Orion user can join the competition. There's no fee, no rewards, but it's meant as just kind of a fun way to allow your club and your athletes to compete and kind of compare your scores against everybody else in the country. So with that, I am going to move into the guts of our presentation today. Periodically, I will be pausing in case there are questions that come up. As before, please ask questions. If you have questions, please use the chat box through GoToMeeting. All right. The very first subject I want to cover today, let me go ahead and maximize the screen. The first subject I want to cover today is Orion's shooter database. The shooter database is largely intended for those athletes who compete at your range frequently. Certainly, your team members would be covered in that category, and can also include athletes from clubs who are nearby who come and compete on a regular, semi-regular basis. It allows you to track their information, specific classification data, demographic information. You can track their address. All this is called a shooter database. There's only one shooter database, and you use it for all of your competitions. There are ways that you can customize the shooter database for your specific needs. In order to customize the shooter database, off of Orion's menu bar, click on Database and Database Properties. When you do that, it's called Shooting Style, but the Database Properties box opens up. There's 3 tabs here. The first tab is called Shooting Styles. Here, select the styles of shooting that your club participates in. As I mentioned before, for example purposes, I'm using 3-position air rifle, so I have that selected already. I'm going to skip the Memberships tab for a moment and go on to the Category Fields tab. And here is the additional classification fields that we can add to the database to track on a per-athlete basis. Again, I'm using 3-position air rifle as an example, so I want to track the air rifle type, sporter versus precision, for all my athletes. I may also want to track if they are a new shooter. New shooter is a common category in 3-position air rifle competitions. Going back to membership fields for a moment, if membership field allows you to track a membership number with certain organizations, we have 3 built in: CNP, USA Shooting, and NRA. If you wish to track additional membership fields, you can add your own. If I click on Add, and then I can say, for example, School ID, I can include that in my database as well. When I click on Save, the columns get updated. I have a column for 3-position rifle type, column for 3-position new shooter, a column to track the CNP ID number, a column to track the school ID, and all of my demographic fields, the address, contact information, so on and so forth. With the shooter database, I do want to draw everybody's attention to the favorites column. A favorite is simply the athletes who, on a day-to-day basis, are going to be shooting on your range. When you mark someone as a favorite, two things are going to happen. A, every time that you create a match, the favorites automatically get added to that match. B, you can under the Analysis tab, you can actually track a favorite's historical performance over time. So again, favorites are largely the athletes who compete on your range on a day-to-day basis. Doesn't have to be competition, but these are the people who show up for practice every day. While I'm on the database tab, I do want to draw your attention to the search box. This is a search box for match competitors and match teams, but if you're looking for particular athletes, a particular group of athletes, just start typing what it is you're looking for. For example, if I start typing West, I'm looking for everybody, in this particular case, I'm looking for everybody who is from West Potomac High School under the organization. So this is a quick and easy way for you to search for specific athletes. All the fields you can sort by their value. To add somebody to the database, you can just go down to the last field and start typing his or her information into the database fields. And with that, I am going to pause for a moment. This is everything I wanted to cover about database. I'm going to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions about the shooter database before I move on to the next subject. And again, if you have a question, please use the chat window within GoToMeeting. All right. As it looks like we don't have any questions at this point, I will move on. The next subject I'm going to cover is creating a match within Orion. First thing to note is the term match, from Orion's perspective, doesn't necessarily mean a competition. A match is just, that's the data file. It's like an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, and Orion match is just our data file. So in order to create a match, you can go to File, New Match, and create a new local match. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about virtual matches today. Or there's a New Match button near the top of the screen as well. I already have a match open. It's warning me about it. I can bypass this. When I create a new match, the first thing that comes up is the Match Properties window. One of our goals with Orion is to allow you to customize the match to your specific needs. Through this Match Properties window, this allows you to customize the match, hopefully to everything that your specific club needs. We'll go through the match properties one step at a time. The first thing to draw to people's attention to is the match name. I do encourage everybody to use meaningful names, especially if you're going to be uploading your results to the internet. The more meaningful of a name that you can use, the easier it is for your athletes and coaches to find your results online. All right. Under the basic rulebook tab, first of all, start and end date. This is largely for if you're running your competition online. This is going to be the searchable fields to allow people to find the competition. Geography is again meant mostly for the online listings. Rulebook, very, very important to select the specific rulebook for your needs. The rulebook drives a couple of different things within Orion. A, the different courses of fire that are available. B, the sorting rules for results. And C, some other kind of nuanced rules pertaining to, for example, penalties. When you're creating the match, the only time you have to select the rulebook is when you're creating it. So be sure to check and double check that you're using the right rulebook. All of our rulebooks in Orion allow you to use decimal scoring if you so choose. Decimal scoring is when you score everything in 10th ring values. USA Shooting adopted decimal scoring for everything for air rifle competitions and prone competitions about 2 years ago. And it's actually, we find it much more spectator appealing as well. But it is an option for all of your competitions. On the next tab, the Course of Fire tab. So again, the rulebook that you select drives the Course of Fire. So in this case, I did select the National 3-Position Air Rifle Council rulebook, and so I have the Courses of Fire pertaining to that rulebook. You'll notice in this case there's 3x10s, 3x20s with and without finals, but there's two options here, a PSK and a KPS. That's the order of the positions. PSK, prone, standing, kneeling. KPS, kneeling, prone, standing. Under shots per bowl, in an air rifle competition, a 50-foot small bore competition, specifically, you want to keep this as 1. That keeps the Orion's accuracy the best. For practice purposes, though, you can select a higher value. 2 is probably most what you want for air rifle, small bore, but yeah, you do have choices for higher than that. Air pistol, the default's 5. And certainly, again, for practice purposes, for air pistol, you can go up to 10 if you wish. The number of team members. I have this selected at 4 at the moment. This does not mean that you can only put 4 athletes on a team. Orion will allow you to put as many athletes as you want on a team. Instead, what this means is Orion will use the top 4 athletes' score to calculate the team score. For example, in Georgia, the high school federation there, high school association, they shoot 5 athletes per team and they count the top 4. This is how you get Orion to calculate the values for you. Dynamic team generation is a little bit of a twist on this. I know in my home state of Virginia, the 4-H community uses this, where, let's say, for example, you have 8 athletes on a team. With dynamic team generation, the top 4 athletes will be team number 1. Athletes 5 through 8, determined by the score, will be team number 2. Orion can dynamically create those teams for you. The last option that you see, invert group analysis, is exclusively meant for BB gun competitions. And I'll be honest, with the new BB gun targets coming out, invert group analysis is basically it's a deprecated feature at this point. The next tab over, Result Center. The Result Center is one of Orion's most powerful and useful features. I highly encourage everybody to use it, especially for your competitions. It allows you to post any result online. The online result system is part of your Orion license. There's no fee to it. It's an optional service. You don't have to use it, but it is there for you to use. Once you decide to use it, very easy to do. Just put a checkbox here, list and report the scores online. As long as you have internet access, Orion will be uploading the scores to the internet for you as the targets are being scored. The contact information fields, these are all optional, but please be aware, if you type in this information, like your email address, your phone number, it will be available online. A lot of people have privacy concerns. If you don't want this information on the internet, don't include it. A few minutes ago, I did briefly mention tournaments. Tournament is, again, just an online listing of matches. So if you want to group matches together online, you can do so through the use of tournaments. Next tab over, the competitor number. Lots of different ways that you can assign default competitor numbers to athletes. The very first option is don't assign anything. Not recommended, but you do have that option. Second option is to use membership fields. Mentioned that in the database, you can track organizational membership numbers, or you can use these as the default competitor number in a competition. Most useful in a CNP sanctioned competition where you do use the CNP competitor ID as the competitor number. Most of the time, our clubs will use sequential numbers. Orion will assign sequential numbers to your athletes as they're added. That's usually the best and easiest way for most of your competitions. If you are using membership fields, for example, CNP ID numbers, if somebody does not have a CNP ID number, you can use sequential as a secondary source. Orion also has the capability of tracking other membership fields. For example, USA shooting membership number. If you're running a USA shooting match, you may want to include this just so you have this information available when you go to report scores. Under sanctioning, this is kind of specific to sanctioning with the CNP three-position air rifle council match. If you sanction your match with the CNP will provide you the match ID and authentication codes. This is where you would type it in. The question just come up about competitor numbers, about if athletes will get new numbers each time. If you select membership field, no, the athletes will have the same membership value as what's in the database each time. If you're using sequential numbers, most likely each athlete will get a new sequential number for each new match. So again, the difference is with the membership field, yes, the competitor numbers will stay the same from one match to the next. If you're using sequential numbers, no, the competitor numbers will not be the same from one match to the next. And then finally, on the Categories tab, this is where you can customize within a match the information you want to track on each shooter, and you'll be able to sort athletes and teams based on this information. In my example of a three-position air rifle match, it's very, very common to separate athletes and teams by sport and position. So I would select the three-position air rifle type as a category value. I have different category values here as well. They're all based on the rulebook. One thing I do want to draw everybody's attention to is kind of the last fields. Very, very often you will want to kind of create your own category, your own sorting mechanisms. While the name is a little bit different in each rulebook, every rulebook has a couple of different categories that you can create your own values for. For example, I know in 4-H competitions they oftentimes have their own they oftentimes have their own age groupings. So you can type in your own age categories for your competition and assign them to the athletes as necessary. All right, I just have a follow-up question on the competitor numbers. What are the choices on the competitor number for the area where it is listed as a CNP number? Do apologize, I'm not 100% certain on the question itself. If you are using CNP ID numbers, those values will get populated. A CNP number is a numeric number. Most of the time it's a 6-digit numeric number. Just kind of give you an example here. I will select this and you'll see what happens. And then anybody who doesn't have a CNP number will get sent as a sequential number. Any of the membership fields can be selected as any of the membership fields that we set up in the database can be selected. All right, so when I click on Save, very first thing when you click on Save, it is going to confirm specifically the rulebook and the course of fire. Both the rulebook and the course of fire can only be set when you're creating the match. They cannot be modified after the match is created, so you want to check and double check that these values are correct. When I click on Yes, the new match is created. The favorite athletes get pulled in. For the athletes that have CNP ID numbers listed, their competitor numbers get listed. My CNP ID number happens to be 31, but for two of my athletes, Bo Duke and Anthony Palmieri, they got pulled over with the sequential numbers. All right. And there was a question about the date of birth and the age groups. Let me go back to match properties for a moment. As I said, Rulebook and Coursefire cannot be modified, but pretty much everything else can be modified after the fact in match properties. Under the categories, every rulebook, maybe not every rulebook, most rulebooks will have an age award. These are the age awards specified by the rulebook itself. NRA has their sub-junior, intermediate, junior, junior. Council has age group 1, age group 2, age group 3. If you use the age award, that will be driven by the athlete's date of birth that you type in to the within the match. If you create your own age group categories using skill level, then you just have to select the age group as appropriate. All right. I believe that is all I want to talk about creating a match. And again, I'm going to pause here for a moment to see if there are any questions. All right, we do have one question. If another county has all the members on the Orion system, do I also need to add all the kids for my first match at our own match? This is kind of a advanced subject. The answer is depends on how you can do this, how you want to do this. Allow me to just say that if you have another club down the street who has Orion, who has a very large database, and you want to use that database, yes, there is a way to kind of pull that in, but please give us a call after the fact. It is kind of beyond the scope of this particular subject to cover that.
Hello?
All right. Yeah, please remember to mute your phone as there can cause quite a bit of feedback. If you have questions, please use the chat box please use the chat box within GoToMeeting to ask your question. All right. With that, let me move on. Talk about team and competitor management. So first of all, as I said, once I've created the match, all my favorites get pulled in from the shooter database. If I wanted to add more shooters from the shooter database, I just go back to the shooter database, select the shooters that I want to add. To select an athlete, click the far left column, the row returned blue, right-click and say Add Shooter to the Match. And with that, my shooters get added. To create a team, creating a team is a two-step process. First, click on Match Teams, create the team itself, create the team name. You can fill in their demographic information as necessary. And then the second step is to assign the athletes to the team itself. And I do that through the team column within match participants. I can just type in new athletes to the competition itself. Or again, as I demonstrated, you can pull them over from the shooter database. If I needed to remove an athlete, highlight the athlete's name, right-click, and I can select Remove Competitor. The next step is you want to be able to print labels for each athlete, barcode labels. A barcode label, let me bring up the screen here. A barcode label is a return size address label encoded with the athlete's information, the position, and the series. We print those directly from Orion. When you print them, this example I have in front of you demonstrates where the barcode label gets adhered to the target, upper right-hand corner. To print barcode labels, select the athletes that you want to print labels for. Again, to select an athlete, far left column. Right-click, and I can say Print Labels. Once I print labels, let me just show you what they're going to look like. This is how they come out of the printer. Again, you have to use specific return size addresses for. You have to use specific sheets of labels that we do have available to print the labels on. And you can also print labels directly from a team as well. All right, and I believe that's all the information I want to talk about through the competitor and team management. Again, I'll pause for a moment before I go into scoring and verification. If there are any questions, again, please use the chat box to ask your question. There was a question about Fiveman Teams and if Orion will drop the There was a question about a five-man team and if Orion will drop the lowest athlete from the team. The answer is yes. The way that you set that up, first within match properties, if you go over to Course of Fire, make sure the number of team members is set to 4. Again, this doesn't mean there are 4 members to a team. What this means is Orion will count the top 4 scores for that team total. So once the number of team members is set to 4, then just select your 5 athletes. In this case, I've selected the first 5 athletes to be a member of my West Potomac High School team. When you print results, all 5 athletes will still be listed, but the team aggregate will just be the top 4 athletes. Okay, and with that, I am going to move on to scoring and verification. All right, for today's purpose, I already have a match created with a lot of different examples for the verification process. One thing to note, when you're opening a match, we do have a recent matches item off of file. You can use that to find the matches that you have recently been working on. And like I said, in this case, I just have a specific match that has a lot of examples for verification. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up and open up all my athletes within that match. All right. One thing I really wish I could cover in this webinar is the AutoScore process. AutoScore is Orion's process for scanning and scoring targets. Unfortunately, if I ran AutoScore right now, because it will eat up so much of the computer's processing power, it would actually interfere with the webinar presentation itself, so I don't want to do that. So let me just kind of talk my way through it for a moment. Again, AutoScore is Orion's technology to scan your targets, load them into the system. If their targets are barcoded, it's going to assign them to the athletes, and it's going to score the targets. The very first thing you have to remember is when you're loading the targets into your scanner, make sure the targets are oriented correctly. You always want to double check that all the targets in the stack are oriented the same way and that you are loading them into the scanner. Unfortunately, we have 4 or 5 or 6 scanners that we support at this point. Pretty much every scanner you have to orient it a different way, so just make sure you check in the documentation that you are orienting the targets in the scanner before scanning. Once the targets are loaded, all you have to do is click the AutoScore button. I'm kind of highlighting it right now. Once you do that, Orion will scan the targets, load them into Orion, score them. It may take a few moments depending on the speed of your computer. Initially, the targets will show up as green. Green just means they're not scored yet. Once they're done scoring, they'll either turn white or yellow. White means everything's fine with the targets. Yellow means that we have more or less than the expected number of shots on that target itself, and we have to fix these problems. All right, so I'm in a situation right now where, for example purposes, I've loaded a bunch of targets. A lot of them are yellow, so I need to go in and figure out why these targets are yellow. But I also have two targets up here. Anything that's directly underneath the word targets, these are unassigned targets. And the reason that they are unassigned is they didn't have a barcode label on them. So Orion didn't know who shot these targets. So we have to manually assign the targets. The way that we do that, right-click on the target itself and say Assign To. The Assign To window opens up. I happen to know that these targets belong to Eddie Bowers, so I'm going to select his name. They are the kneeling 1 target. Verify that, and then click on Next to move on to the next target. Again, it still belongs to Eddie Bowers, and it's the kneeling 2 targets. Once I've done that, the targets get assigned to Mr. Bowers, and then I can go on to the verification process. With verification, simplest thing to do is start at the top and work your way to the bottom. Next thing to note is Rachel Anderson. Her name is highlighted in red. What red means is there are two targets with the same position in the same series assigned to this athlete. And if you look closely, there are 2 prone Series 1 targets assigned to this athlete. Probably what happened here was the target got scanned in twice. We don't need both scanned images, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the second target that got scanned in, right-click, and say Remove Target. Once I do that, the target gets outside Orion. I can move on to my verification process. Now I want to look at all the different targets that are highlighted in yellow. The first one is the one that says Prone Series 2. And if you look down here, Orion's going to tell you what's going on. Orion was expecting to find 10 shots, but instead have 11. Verification process, kind of redundant after a while, but what we do, we look at the target, figure out what's going on, and then take appropriate action. We can see that, yes, indeed, this athlete fired 2 shots on aiming bowl number 4. In this example, it's a 3x20, so I want to take a look at the corresponding target to see if the athletes, by chance, only fired 9 shots. So I look at Prone Series 1. No. In this case, the athlete fired 21 shots in the prone stage. The way that we adjudicate this, and this is by rule, we take the highest value shot, annul it, and then assign a 2-point penalty. To find the highest value shot, there is a score list down here, bottom right-hand side. I can click on the score column, and I can see there's a 10.4 here. If I double-click on the 10.4, zooms in on that shot, this is the highest value shot, so I'm going to right-click, and in Orion's terminology, this is an extra shot fired. Mark it as an extra shot. Orion does so, and then by rule, the penalty gets assigned to the lowest value shot in the first series. So if I click over to the Prone 1 series, we can see that the penalty got assigned to the athlete automatically. All right, we've cleared up the first problem. I can move on to the next. All right, Ryan says it was expecting 10, but instead only found 9. First thing, look at the target, figure out what's going on. So yeah, there are only 9 shots found on the target, but we see here on aiming bowl number 7 that there is a shot right on the edge of the target that wasn't actually close enough to the aiming bowl to Orion to pick up, but this is indeed a shot. So we can add it manually. The way that we add a shot manually, using your mouse, come close to the center of the shot, right-click, add a shot, add a real shot. All right, we've added the shots. Ryan now thinks there's 10 shots on the target. We can move on to the next issue. All right, expecting 10, but instead we have 8. Again, look at the target, figure out what's going on, and yes, there are only 8 shots on this target. aiming bowl number 3, aiming bowl number 5. There are no targets, there are no shots on these aiming bowls. So we need to clear up this problem, so we're going to add misses to both of these targets. Right-click near the center of the aiming bowl and say add a miss. I'm going to do this twice, once for each of the 2 aiming bowls. Once we've done that, the Orion now has 10 shots on this target, and we can move on to the next issue. All right, expecting 10 but have 11. Again, look at the target, figure out what's going on. In this case, the athlete had a shot outside of the scoring rings, pardon me, the cider rings. The athlete did the right thing, the range officer did the correct thing. When it happened, the athlete let the range officer know, the range officer marked it accordingly, so when we're doing the verification, we can see this and we know that this shot should not count against the athlete. We want to remove this shot. Select the shot. When you select a shot, the shot turns red. Right-click and say remove the shot. Done that, clears it outside of Orion, and we can move on to the next issue. All right, expecting 10, we have 11. So again, figure out what's going on. There are indeed 11 shots on this target, but because this is a 3x20, we need to look at the other target to see if there are only 9 shots on it. When we do so, yes, the athlete did skip an aiming bowl, so we have a situation where in the kneeling stage, the athlete fired 20 shots. Under this particular rulebook, there is no penalty here, so we still need to clear up this issue. So we just right-click on the target, ignore warning message, and we do that for both cases, both of the targets. When we do that, that clears up the problem. We can move on to the last issue. Again, expecting 10 shots but have 9. As always, look at the target, figure out what's going on, and we can see on aiming bowl number 3, there is a shot hole, but Orion didn't pick it up. If I zoom in on the aiming bowl, I can click the number 3 button. What we have here is, think back to the Florida elections a few years ago, basically a hanging chad that caught up in the bullet hole that prevented Orion from finding the shots. I want to add this shot manually. The easiest way to do this is a process called Identifier Shots. Using my mouse, I'm going to get close to the center of the aiming bowl as I can, and then I'm going to double-click. When I double-click, Orion's using my mouse location as kind of a hint, and then it goes in, looks for the shots, and uses both the hint and the surrounding area to score the shot. With that, I have 10 shots on this target, and I can move on. The last thing to note is Bo Duke. His name is highlighted in gray. The highlighting in gray is most useful at the end of a relay. This is a 3x20. We're expecting 6 targets assigned to each athlete. In this case, there's only 5 targets assigned to Bo Duke. As it turns out, for whatever reason, we do not have his prone 1 target. Maybe the athlete didn't turn it in. Maybe the range officer is sitting on the range officer's desk. Maybe he didn't get scanned. Not really sure, but we need to track down where his prone 1 target is, put it in the scanner, get it scored, and make sure the athlete get the scores that he's deserved. All right. With that, I have one more subject I want to cover, which is results. And I will pause once again if there are any questions about the scoring or verification process. All right, does not appear to be any questions, so let's cover results. Match results tab. 2 different types of results that you can view and print within Orion. One is ranked lists. We have a number of different ranked list possibilities. Individual, team, the different positions. Select the ranked results that you want to look at, and then click on Update Results. Orion will sort things for you and display them. If you want to print them, you can click on Print Results. It'll send it out to your printer. If you want to include demographic information, including the athlete's coach, the team they represent, their hometown, if you have that information typed in, put a checkbox here, click on Print Results, and what this will look like is similar to what you have in front of your screen, the athlete's name, and then his or her demographic information below the name. The second type of results that you can view within Orion are the individual score sheets. What an individual score sheet looks like, let me again bring it up. It has the shot group as well as the detailed information on each shot. The way that you print it, select either the athlete or you can select all the athletes from a particular relay to print at a single time. It is very popular within Orion to use the we call it the shot group analysis on the score sheets for coaching purposes. Within Orion, you can now view that inside the program. Simplest thing to do, just as I did, double-click one of the scores, and that will bring up the shot group form, and you can view the shot group within Orion. And we can, as I click on different results, we can see the different shot groups from the different athletes. And we can even do things, if we drill down, for example, into prone, I can click on the 20 shot group and see the 20 shots from this athlete, and then see the, as I click between the different series, see the 10 shot groups from this particular athlete. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything that I had wanted to cover with today's webinar. I am happy to stay on the line and answer any questions that you might have, but otherwise I do thank you for joining us. Again, if you have questions either now, I'm happy to answer them, or later on today, next week, please contact us so we can get the information that you need to use Orion successfully. A question about the non-scoring license. Basically what a non-scoring license is just that it does everything except to score targets. If you want to move the data files around from one computer to the next, yes, you may use a non-scoring license to create targets, view results, print results, and yes, you can do things like view the shot group analysis from the non-scoring license. Question about the analysis tab. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to cover that today, but that is largely a coaching tool. Very, very briefly, the team numbers, these are your favorites. The event style, click on, in this case, kneeling, prone, standing, and the different metrics that you want to use. Under normal circumstances, you would actually see a graph showing the athlete's historical performance. Unfortunately, the database that I'm using is kind of a demonstration database. I don't have a lot of data in it, so this graph is actually quite boring. But under normal circumstances, as you collect historical data, you'll actually see a graph charting the athlete's performance for the different metrics. A question about the different ways of saving results. The Orion data file itself is an XML file, it's proprietary, but you have capabilities of exporting results to Excel, to a CSV file. The way that you export results, go to Match, Export Results, and then export comprehensive data file, which is everything that's inside of Orion for a particular match, or the result text files, which is just the particular data from particular results. All right, and there was a question about how to get a non-scoring license. If you would like a non-scoring license, please contact our support line and we'll be able to assist you with that. All right, hopefully I did answer everybody's questions. Again, I'm happy to stay on the line if there are additional questions, or else, again, thank you for joining us. As questions come up, please give us a call so we may assist you.